last thing is fish. Okay? Fish have awesome antioxidants in them. Omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids clear out the arteries like you would not believe. Okay, so I'm just going to cover this up for a sec, and don't look at your notes. What are they? Things you can do in excess are laughter. Okay, now in no particular order and not all at the same time makes a hell of a mess. Okay? Right, let's move on. Now, who here likes seeing the Americans get smashed in some shape, or form? If that's sorry if there are any Americans in the crowd. Folks, I just hired out the Sydney 2000 video CD of the Australians beating the Americans in the 4x100 metre freestyle relay, and I was just jumping up and down going nuts. So I'm one of those people who really enjoy seeing the Americans get smashed. However, there is one title that we don't want, folks, and that is the title of the fattest nation on earth. Okay, we definitely don't want that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here today taking a stand, making sure we can do as much as we can to prevent that. So, based on that graph, one in two Australian males are overweight, and 1 in 5 Australian males are obese. Now, obese is a term we use for someone who's grossly overweight. You definitely don't want to get into that category. And females are not far behind. Now, the scary thing for us guys is that our children are a lot fatter than the American children. So if things tend to keep going where they're going, we are going to very soon have the title of the fattest nation on earth, which, as I've said, is something that I'm campaigning strongly against. Alright, having said that, we're going to shift gears just for a tick. I did a lot of work in cardiac rehabilitation, and I did a lot of work in the cardiac ward at Wesley Hospital. And I'd like to share with you probably my most amazing experience. I don't know if amazing is the word I'd use, but it was open heart surgery. And I was a third-year student at the time, and I was summoned to the ward, and I went into the room. I was all decked out in the white gear. I had the mask on, and the room was very cold. It was very chilly. It was almost like walking into a fridge. And there was a guy lying on the bed, and he was out cold. He had pipes and tubes coming out of every single orifice in his entire body almost. And when the surgeon came in and summoned me over and said, "Wes, don't stand over there, come over in here and see what all the action is," it kind of scared me a little bit, but I stood there and I thought, I'm going to make this an experience I can live through and share with others. And folks, he brought out this big saw. It's almost like a circular saw. And if you actually tap your chest right here, you'll actually feel that it's very hard. It's called the sternum. And to have open heart surgery, folks, you have to go through the sternum to get to your heart. So, the saw goes right through, and then he gets these big two clamps and rips the ribs open. Now, has anyone here seen Indiana Jones? Do you remember that scene that the guy puts his hand in and pulls out the heart and it's like beating in mid-air? You probably don't remember that. That's pretty accurate, guys. I did a bit of a check. But it was amazing to see the heart just pumping in this guy's body. And, what really did it for me, folks, is, when I say did it, I mean really scared me, is when he started cutting the arms and started cutting the legs, because they actually have to get the arteries and the veins out of there to stitch around the heart to bypass the clogged arteries. And when I saw that, I thought, that's it, I'm definitely not going to let that happen to me or anyone that I come across if I can help it. So that was a really powerful experience for me, and one that I'd be happy to share with you. Now the scary thing is, folks, that every single one of us here today has some form of heart disease in our arteries. From, I have it, Geffen got it, Adam's got it. It's only when it starts to get greater than 70%. Just blow it up here. Now, just folks, use your imagination. Picture that's an artery slice cross section. Now, when it gets greater than 70% blockage, that's the time when you start to feel that it's blocked. Okay, before that, you don't have any chance. And when I say start to feel that it's blocked, I mean you get radiating pain out through your chest, through your arms, up through your jaw. You might walk up a flight of stairs and you'll be, oh, I'm really buggered. That doesn't normally happen. And you have no idea what's happened to you. I was a betting man, folks, I would say that something's wrong on the inside. So that's a really important factor to know, and one that I would like everyone here to prevent. Okay? The other important thing, guys, is that, now, use your imagination again. That's a heart now. Okay, that's a heart. We have 3 major arteries coming in and around the heart. You don't get to choose where you have your blockages or your heart attacks. So if they happen here, or here, or here, you don't get to choose. Now, if it happens at a peripheral artery, you lose that section of your heart, you're considered very lucky. And your heart will have significantly decreased function. However, you'll live, you'll live to fight another day. Your heart will survive on a 90% function or 85% function, and, good luck to you. However, if it happens here, okay, you lose that part of your heart, and it's good night. So unfortunately, once the heart muscle dies, it can never recover. So that's why heart attacks are so serious, and one of the reasons why you never want one to happen to you. Okay, so let's just quickly have a look. This happens on a microscopic level. They've blown up the artery here, and here's a blocked artery caused by increased cholesterol. This artery, folks, is one that has been fully occluded. Okay, nasty stuff. I'll just bring to your attention the scale. Now, 1 millimetre is obviously that big, so 5, maybe 6 millimetres max for that major artery. It only takes a very small amount, folks, to block those arteries and cause some serious damage. Okay, all it took in this case was a blood clot, and this guy was gone. So enough about that. Now, I want to now throw it over to you, and you're probably wondering, geez, where do I sit on this risk factor thing? Now, as personal trainers, what we do is I've done a bit of personal training in my time, and when someone comes to see me, I always ask them a few key questions so that I know that when they're on a treadmill with them, or when I'm taking them through a bench press, they're not going to cark it on them, okay? Because it's kind of like an insurance check, all right? So I asked them a few questions, and what I'm going to do is ask you guys these same questions today, and don't put your hand up and shout out where you're at, but just, I want you to give yourself a mental tip on where you're at, okay? And then you can see if you need to do something about it. So I want to bring your attention to page 2 of your handout, guys, and there's a whole range of risk factors that are down there. Now, don't just quickly run off and dash through them. I'm going to actually take you through them one by one, and you can just tick it off as you go, okay? So the first risk factor, folks, in particular, is if you have high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, that is considered a risk factor. Now, when I say high blood pressure, I mean greater than about 140 on 100 millimeters of mercury. That's the measurement we use for blood pressure. You don't know what your blood pressure is, you need to get it checked. Okay? If you have high cholesterol levels, okay, that's another risk factor. Now, high cholesterol levels, total cholesterol greater than 6 millimoles. LDLs, which are your bad cholesterols, greater than 4, is considered to be high. Again, if you don't know your cholesterol levels, you're behind the 8 ball. You need to get them checked out. If you are physically inactive at the moment, now going up and down the stairs at work doesn't count. Walking up the stairs today doesn't count. I'm talking about exercise you do outside of what you normally do. Okay, so structured exercise is considered to be physically active. So if you're not, that's another risk factor. Now, if you're a male and you're over 35 years of age, and you're a female over 45 years of age, it's not your fault, it's another risk factor. If I were to take 2 people off the street, a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old, just purely because of their age, I could almost bet with certainty who's going to have a heart attack. Family history of heart disease, of strokes, any sort of high blood pressure. Not your fault again, you may just, call up your parents and start swearing after this. That's another risk factor. Now, if you're diabetic, type 1, type 2, again, it may not be your fault, but we consider that to be a risk factor. Now, I think there's one other one. Someone want to tell me on that one? Smoking. That's right, If you're currently smoking, so I don't care if it's 10 cigarettes a week or 50 a day, if you're currently smoking, that is an increased risk factor. Folks, what smoking does is increases it makes the inside of your artery walls, remember that picture I drew before, it makes the inside of your artery walls very sticky. So every time you have a cigarette, it's like coating the inside of your artery walls with glue and asking the fat to stick on it. Okay? So I hope that you want to live a long life, but if you're smoking, you sort of, it's a little bit incongruent with that. Alright, so keep that in mind. Alright, now you should have a number. You should have a number in your head of the amount of risk factors that you have. The criteria that we use is as follows. If you have no risk factors at all, okay, we consider that to be low risk, which is fantastic. I mean, you can never have nil risk because one might fall down now or might get struck by lightning and we'd be dead. So low risk if you've got none. Now, if you've got one, as trainers, we consider that to be medium risk. Okay, so say for example,